We moving the chains, we changing the game. You know that we moving the chains with change. Just stay in your lane.
What's up, guys? Commish here, back again in place of the emotionally injured Chief. He's going to be nursing his wounds after that loss. So here's another episode of Moving the Chains with Commish. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look back at Week 11 in the opening drive. Now, taking a look back at last week's game of the week, we did see Orlando Leon's overcome fully automatic, taking a pretty sounding victory on his way to stealing the number 2 spot in the league. Remember, at one point, Duff was absolutely all the way at the bottom, so this has definitely been a streak in the making. Continues that hot win streak, now sitting at 6 consecutive wins, and finds himself near the very top of the standings as we hit this final stretch. Now, we also saw our reigning champion handling business over Nico in another pretty easy win. This secures Larry at the top of the standings, now rounding it out with Larry, Duff, and Cino. And those top 3 teams, as they head into this final stretch, all sit with at least a 90% chance to actually secure the playoff win. So definitely going to be fun watching how that shakes out over these next few weeks. Now, with those top 3 spots already all but secured, that leaves 6 teams kind of on that playoff bubble for those final 3 playoff spots in our main league. We have 3 teams sitting at 6 wins, each of those fighting to hold on to those final 3 playoff spots, and we have 3 of our 5-win teams that are on that bubble looking to play spoiler and hopefully make a run here at the end of the season to secure one of those 3 opening spots. Unfortunately, that does leave the bottom 3 just kind of duking it out, but hey, it's time for them to start playing spoiler. And speaking of spoiler, we kind of had our first one. We have Mason with Gators Gat sitting at the bottom of the league, but that's not going to stop him from putting up some big points over Chief this week. Put up 190 points in his win over Chief. With that loss, Freddie now has just about a 10% chance to secure a playoff spot, while Mason's chances are pretty much all but 0, less than 1% chance, but you never know. Anything can happen in the league. Moving over into TLB, we saw that game of the week live up to the hype absolutely, as it came down to an almost Monday Night Miracle, absolute nail biter, as Delvin just narrowly misses out on the comeback in his loss to number 1 place Full Monty. With this win, Monty all but secures that playoff spot. It's sitting at over 99%. Needed a couple people to lose and ended up winning this past week, but it's pretty much a lock that they're going to hit one of those 6 playoff spots. Unfortunately for Delvin, with this loss, it means their chances are slim to none, sitting at just under 6% chance that Delvin will be able to make a playoff spot. But the playoff push is not over in TLB. We actually had 2 blowout wins that have some pretty big playoff impacts happen this past week as well. We had Manila Mafia destroying and putting an end to the scammer schemes this week in what was an absolute historic blowout. Actually, it was the largest blowout victory that we've had in TLB so far this season, and the only game with an over 100-point margin of victory, as again, Manila Mafia handles the scammer pretty soundly. Now, the other blowout we had is probably even more interesting. We have Miami Vice putting a beatdown to Kenny. Now, Kenny, for 2 consecutive weeks, has the embarrassing losses, this time at the hands of Joe, owner of Miami Vice, which is an interesting story. You probably remember Joe actually took over this orphan team when it was 2-5, and now they sit at 5-6 with hopes of securing a playoff spot. It looks like they're putting up the points. They might be able to make a run here at the end of the season. It's definitely going to make for a very interesting finish. Now, seeing as though Chief is not here and our historian is on vacation currently on a cruise, we're not going to have any additional segments, so we're going to roll right on into looking at Week 12's Games of the Week. Now, over in the main league, it's really tough to find a game of the week this week just because everything is so close, but also this week marks the beginning of the second half of our double matchup play. That's right, everyone that you played weeks 1 through 3, you are now going to play for a second time to close out these final 3 weeks. So these tiebreakers are going to be more important than ever. So any game this week can probably be our game of the week. But I do want to address a little error that happened back in my part when I was doing some script writing last week. With our Historian's debut, we were talking about longest active streaks, and the second active longest streak, we actually made a little bit of a mistake, and we can actually see that history being made this week as well. Our matchup between Al and Mason could be potentially historic. Right now, the second longest active win streak, Al actually has over Mason, currently sitting at 6 wins. So if Al were to secure the victory this week over Mason, he would actually tie the longest active streak of a team against another team with 7 consecutive wins, of course tying myself and my current streak over Darren and return of the DAC. So history can still be made this week, as well as that playoff push. And over in TLB, we're going to take a look at 2 teams that are currently sitting outside the playoffs and looking to bounce back. Our 2 5 and 6 teams, Raising Bauer Levels and Team Atrevolina. Really wish you would change your name and hope I'm saying that one right. Both teams currently sitting at 5 and 6 and also on a 2-game losing streak, with their hopes of the playoffs hanging by a thread. One of these teams will come out on top and the other will likely be on the outside looking in. And of course, we'll find out who wins that one this week. That's pretty much it for this episode of Moving the Chains with the Commish. Thank you guys for being here. Chief, feel better. Good luck, guys.
We moving the chains, we changing the game. You know that we moving the chains with Chief. Just stay in your lane, so nothing the same. We steady be moving the chains with Chief. Go for the rain, just doing my thing. You know that we moving the chains with Chief. We moving the chains with Chief. Talking my shit at the end of the week. We moving the chains.